So, let's open a grimoire of the spirit, shall we? We're about to dive into a dark, gothic tale about a soul trapped by its own fear, and the violent reckoning it takes for that soul to be reborn. This is a story about a journey from static, frozen despair to this incredible creative freedom. And it all begins in a place where the very air is designed to stop you in your tracks.
Welcome to the Sovereign Absurd. Just picture this place. Ink-drenched corridors, crumbling ruins. There's this perpetual cold and a freezing wind they call the breath of the void that literally siphons the warmth out of any spirit that even tries to change or grow. You have to understand, this realm isn't just a place on a map. It's a state of being. It's spiritual paralysis made real.
And in this desolate landscape, we meet our protagonist, the Seeker. He's standing there beneath this shattered spire, and he's got what seems like a pretty noble goal. He wants to build a sanctuary, a fortress of absolute law to protect himself from all the chaos. But here's the tragic irony. As we're about to see, the very logic he uses to build his refuge, it's going to become the bars of his own cage. And right here, this is his first big mistake. He chooses what he calls level and safe logic, and in doing so, he creates what's called the mirror of gravity. It's a whole philosophy where static control is everything. He's basically rejecting the messy, unpredictable, but absolutely vital spirit of becoming. He's trading his potential for real growth for what is, at the end of the day, just the illusion of stability. And the consequence of that choice is, well, it's pretty clear. His sanctuary becomes his prison. He thought he was building this amazing protective armor, but what he was really forging was a gilded cage. I mean, this is the perfect metaphor for all the self-imposed limits we build for ourselves out of a fear of failure, right? This heavy architecture doesn't shield him at all. It just arrests his development, weighing his soul down so it can't move forward.
So, what do you do when you're trapped in a cage of your own making? Well, the Seeker develops a really powerful psychological defense. To cope with that freezing breath of the void and his own stagnation, he has to put on a new persona. A mask to hide the decay happening inside.
Now, this mask isn't just for show. It is a direct response to the absolute terror of his own inner emptiness. He's desperately trying to shield a super fragile ego from what the text calls the repulsive aspects of his own soul. This whole defense is born and bred from pure, unadulterated fear. And this just lays out the tragic result of all that fear. Look at the contrast here. Internally, what's going on? Emptiness, fragility, a sickness of the will. But externally, what does he project? The complete opposite. Biting sarcasm, cruel mockery. He actually weaponizes his intellect to enforce that same static control, creating this persona of a shadow jester.
And at the end of this phase, he becomes the Sentinel of resentment. And he's not guarding against some enemy out there in the world. No, he's standing guard over his own potential, actively freezing his own soul to make absolutely sure he never has to face the terror of real, genuine change. But you know what they say, you can't suppress the void forever. The environment itself starts to become lethal, and it forces a confrontation. And this is where our story takes a really dramatic, violent turn, with the arrival of a brand new figure. I mean, think about it. The Seeker has built his entire world, his entire identity, on avoiding the unpredictable. So what happens when that very unpredictability, the void itself, decides to fight back against his rigid little cage? And the answer comes in the form of the Sapphire Jester. Now, this isn't really a person, it's a force of what's called kinetic nihilism. It's like a whirlwind of pure deconstruction that holds up a terrifying mirror to the Seeker's vanity and just shatters all of his self-made, comforting illusions to pieces.
The Sapphire Jester brings with it something called the logic of zero, and wow, it is absolutely brutal. It presents this cosmic ledger where all of the Seeker's proudest achievements are just dismissed as frantic delirium. His treasured gold of stories is exposed for what it is, the heavy lead of mortality. The lesson is simple and harsh. You cannot hoard the infinite inside a finite cage. And so, a necessary collapse is forced.
So after this total collapse, the Seeker is plunged into what the source calls the logic of the crucible. This is the sacred forge. It's a painful but totally essential process where you have to be broken down completely in order to be rebuilt. And it all begins by confronting his deepest, darkest shadow.
He has to face the ugliest man And this isn't some demon from the outside, it's the embodiment of every single part of himself that he has rejected. It's his deepest shame, his most profound self-loathing. To do this, he has to journey into his own personal valley of death. The ugliest mean is called the murderer of the divine witness, and why? Think about this. It's because he could not stand having anyone, not even a god, look at his vulnerabilities with pity, and to avoid that pitying gaze, he chose to destroy the witness itself. That's the depth of the shame that our seeker must now finally embrace. So by embracing this ugliest part of himself with what's called terminal honesty, the seeker kicks off this incredible transformation known as the Dionysian rupture. And this isn't just a simple checklist, it's a process of spiritual alchemy. He finally learns to turn the poison of his shame into creative fuel. He starts to perform a grave dance on the ruins of his old, rigid self. And that brings us to the final act, the coronation. Now, this isn't about becoming a king with a crown and a castle. It's about achieving a new kind of sovereignty by integrating every single part of his journey, and from it, the emergence of a new, enlightened persona.
And the imagery here is just wow, it's so climactic. The seeker's dark castle of logic, his gilded cage, finally collapses under the weight of a cosmic punchline. His soul goes through a liquefaction, becoming fluid and dynamic again, ready to be reshaped into something new.
He finally achieves this state of amor fati, which means to love one's fate. He doesn't fear destruction anymore. In fact, he sees it as the necessary fertile ground for the spirit of becoming to finally flourish. That collapse, it wasn't an end, it was the beginning.
And this right here shows the complete transformation. The destructive logic of zero, the one that tore him down, has now been transformed into the creative logic of one. The terrifying mirror of nihilism becomes the joyful affirmation of the gay science. The heavy lead of mortality is transfigured into the lightness of a creator. It's a total reversal.
So the seeker, now reborn as the light jester, has made this profound trade. He's given up the false promise of anchoring stability for the joyful, weightless freedom of a creator. And that void, the one he feared so much that he built a prison to hide from it, he can now turn to it and smile. But here's the thing. This transformation isn't an endpoint, it's a new beginning. And the journey leaves us with one final ongoing test. Now that he's integrated his deepest shadows, he has to face the sentinels of his past. The question is, can he fully transfigure the heavy, leaden reality of his failures into vibrant creative light? Well, that is the perpetual challenge of the spirit of becoming.